We are looking at the Electoral Act 2026. So many issues have been coming up. So the presidents have signed it, so it has become a law. So we now have the 2026 Electoral Act. So that is to forge ahead, prepare for elections, subsequent elections, and even our democracy. And we know a lot of drama, a lot of issues, a lot of things that people talked about, and people are still even talking about it. Sir, in view of the fact that the president has assented to it, what is the implication on our democracy and our elections as a whole?
But for me, really, I think that where the problem lies is the behavior of the actors. Because what I see really is that let us not wake up in 2027 election and also begin to hear that there are no network. Sorry, we begin to hear that there's no network all over the country. Let us not wake up and hear that. Right. Again, I had also said the former INEC chairman also made promises how he was going to transmit results. And what we saw was on the day of election, we had glitches. Now, what happens if, or of course, the law has made it mandatory if there's network? Now, what happens if INEC cannot find internet on the day of election or 2 days that transmission becomes impossible? Or what happens even if there's uh, internet and we hear the case of glitch in 2027 election? Because where you actually going to view this election result, I think it is INEC portal, right?
Yes,
So,
sir, IDR,
so
yes.
what happens on the day of election? All of a sudden, INEC portal cannot come on. What will happen? So, for me, really, I think where the job lies now is that the voters must be very vigilant. My happiness is that the law has now mandate or the law has now made it possible for INEC. If INEC chooses that it must do real-time electronic transmission, the law has allowed or has enabled INEC to do that. Because if we were to be in a sinner climb, the law establishing INEC gives it power to regulate the conduct of election. Just the way the law that establishes
Yes, sir, that's what they do. That's what the law says.
just the way the law that establishes CBN gives its own power. So INEC, even without the whole of this many problem, many noise, can decide on its own
And
to
actually decide, yeah.
decide on its own to say
Yes, sir.
that he wants to do electronic transmission because the law has already empowered it to conduct election in any way it deems fit. But we went into this problem because of the court pronouncement, to say that electronic transmission is not known to the law. Now that is known to the law, I think that where we need to do the work is that everybody, when you vote, ensure that returning officer must upload the result on the IRM before he leaves. That's the job of the voters vigilant. And if you happen to find yourself in my own community where there's no network, gently escort him to where there's network coverage so that he will upload it before you allow him to go. These things are simple. Unless what will be a problem now is if on the day of election, the actors decide to ensure that there's no network anywhere,
Mm.
or INEC decides to lock its portal and transmission of result cannot even happen. The same way we had glitch. So why we had glitch last election was not even because of the law. It is the behavior of the political elite or the behavior of the actors. I just pray that we don't wake up to see that the law, the INEC portal had been shut or because there's no network. Of course, the way the law is now, if we take away the desperate behavior of the politicians and the corrupt nature of us, our individuals, I think that I don't see anything wrong. Do your election, collect the results, sign, paste the result on the word, snap, and upload. If there is no network where you are, escort him, find network, and upload. But the problem is, remember that when they introduce incident form, because of those who may not have, who may have problem in their in their thumb,
Oh, yeah.
some INEC officials collaborated with politicians and abandoned smart card readers. Are you now saying that in the whole communities, nobody had fingers? Is that what you're saying? So what they now did was to say that the whole of the communities, nobody had finger. That was why smart card reader was not used. Let us not wake up and hear INEC officials collude with politicians to say that there was no network, that was why we didn't upload. Or we are going to upload after 2 days or 3 days when the network has been restored. Because the idea of real-time transmission, the argument is that by the time you allow this guy 2 hours or 3 hours after election in a polling unit, what they are likely going to do is to go and bring another form, fill a different thing, and send. So the idea of uploading the result from the polling unit is to ensure that the returning officers never had the opportunity to alter the figure. This is what we are talking about. And today, the law has made it possible for INEC to say, look, if you conduct an election, you must upload that result to the IRF, unless there is no network. And I am pushing the responsibility back to the voters. Ensure that the returning officer uploads such result before leaving the polling unit. And if if the returning officer tells you, oh, I cannot do it here because there's no network, both the party agent, the community members should escort him where there's network. So for him to upload it before you allow him to leave. This is what I'm saying. So let's go back to voters' vigilance. So for your question, the implication for Nigeria democracy, I think that we are making small progress. This is what I'm thinking. There's no sentiment about it. But this is what I just think.